Chairman Flynn, good to see you again. And
my pleasure.
You and I have visited on numerous occasions about this bill. First, let me ask you kind of a technical question on the resolution itself.
Haven't laid that one out yet.
Okay, I thought we were on.
I don't know whether Mr.
I thought we were on 32.
Yeah. Do we need to lay them each out?
The chair's laid those out, but I'd asked Mr. Flynn to discuss them separately. So he's been discussing the bill.
Okay, well,
and when we finish with that, he can get into the JR as well.
Okay.
Fair enough. And I'll come back to that,
yes,
Dan, if that's all right.
If you want, go ahead.
But conceptually on this bill, I am a practicing lawyer, and in courts literally all over the state of Texas. And part of the things our discussions have been, I'm unaware of any court in Texas which has done anything close to saying that that court or that judge is going to follow or incorporate any other law than the state of Texas. Now, I put an asterisk there because there are circumstances when you have a choice of law provision in the contract, which then brings in and incorporates the law of the state of Alabama or California, whatever, in some commercial interests. But as far as there being and I think the buzzword everybody's talking about is the use of Sharia law in Texas courts. And I don't know every judge in Texas, but I know a lot of them, and I have no fear or concern of the judges that I know and that I observe doing that in lieu of or in place of the federal Constitution, the Texas Constitution, the federal state statutes, and the common law which is developed within our jurisprudence. And so I frankly, I've been around in my district and in other parts of the state. I've not heard a lot of people expressing concerns about this. I've heard some things in the media and others that there are people, and obviously there's a crowd here today, so I'm not discounting that people have real concerns about how this creeps in. But there's an issue in the law called rightness, that you only take up those issues that are before you at that time. And I've told a lot of people that in the legislature, I think one of the things we need to do a better job of is not passing more laws just to pass laws, that less is more, and then we need to be very deliberative and judicious in how we pass things. And if we don't have a true issue before us that we have a problem with this law being incorporated into our current Texas jurisprudence, then we need to leave it alone. It's not before us. And I also can appreciate that there's concerns that we don't want Texas to become like Europe, that we see parts of Western Europe where their customs and their cultures and heritage are being assaulted or changed. Now, you can make a lot of different arguments socially about that, and is that a part of the process of as people move and assimilate with each other? I don't know. That's not our role here as legislators either. But I'm not compelled by the argument, well, look what happened in Europe, because, frankly, this is Texas. This is not Europe. We come from a different legal background. Our source of laws are very different than those laws in Western Europe. And I think, frankly, we do a much better job of safeguarding those laws by electing good and quality competent judges and by being bound by the set of precedents. I think Texas, frankly, does a better job than any other state in the union in protecting those conservative values. And I don't mean that in a political sense conservative. I mean conservative in the judicial sense of only doing those things that have to be done, being very limited in the scope. And so the question I would have for you and the other witnesses is, one, is there an instance in the state of Texas where a court has attempted to apply Sharia, and I will broaden that to any other outside religious law other than that choice of law provision? And if so, you mentioned activist judges. Who is the activist judge that we fear that happening from? Because I don't see those persons out there. That's irrespective of whether it's we had a conversation here a while ago about the voting. I don't care if it's a Democratic judge or Republican judge. I don't know of any judge in Texas that is slightly inclined to consider it. And so that's a question I would ask for the witnesses that testify here today. I don't know of any specific circumstances in Texas. Second thing I would, as an observation, if you'll indulge me, Mr. Chairman, don't put me under the 3-minute clock, I might break it. But the other thing I'm concerned about from a standpoint of freedom of religion, as a Christian, we're encouraged to resolve our disputes within our faith, within our church, with our elders. In different churches, different denominations have different customs or rules that they follow on that. I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. We're not encouraged to run to the courts to resolve our disputes. It should be done among brethren. That's always made sense to me. And the courts are here for a purpose. I believe in that system. But I'm worried that in trying to solve one problem, we create others. The thing I see as a lawyer is that statutes are passed and that the law of unintended consequences is sometimes much worse than the problem you were originally trying to fix. And so when we start being concerned about how this is going to, we got this one group, we don't like them doing those things. If a group, a culture, a ethnic group, a religious group, whatever, has a way of resolving disputes among themselves privately, so be it. That's part of their exercise of free religion, the way I see it, right of free assembly, right of all those things. I think that's protected under the Constitution. Now, what it can't do is trump our civil or criminal statutes. You can't say, well, you stole something, so in church we're going to take off your right hand. That is not going to work. We're going to have our laws trump that. We're not going to give those things force and effect. But if they have a way of resolving disputes, again, we may not agree with them, but if that's their choice to be in that cult, they're part of their history, their heritage, their ethnicity, their church, their faith, and that's what they want to do. Again, I don't have to agree with it. I don't even have to like it. But I think the First Amendment in the Constitution requires that we respect it. And that's a separate and distinct issue from the development of jurisprudence and what laws we follow in our courts. So I threw a lot in there, Dan. I don't know, but those are the things I'm looking at. That I appreciate the concerns. I know they're legitimate, and these are real people that your constituents, that have these concerns. But I would just ask everybody to think hard and long before we start interfering with people's ability to practice their religious beliefs and to resolve disputes privately, and not overreach into affecting what I believe is the very best system of civil justice in the history of mankind.